What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Lockdown Defense Sports Network. I'm your host for today's episode, Young RG, Robert Garcia, as Coach likes to call me. And in today's episode, or today's video, I should say, we are going to be diving into a little bit of last-minute mock draft fun for the Chargers. Of course, the draft is but only a week away. So, this is full into a mock draft effect season. Obviously it's a lot of fun. This is like the more fun part of the offseason right before the draft, the predictions, where players are going to go. Obviously free agency is amazing as well, but you'd love to see the young guys, get those opportunities, see how the board falls, see all the projections that are going to inevitably be wrong, except ours, of course, but it's always a fun time. So of course, without further ado, let's dive right into it. All right, here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, the Chargers 2026 mock draft. Are they going to have a draft shocker, pun intended? Haha. Let's find out. So the Chargers 2026 draft picks, of course, here they are, rounds 1 through 4. And of course, their 6th round pick, no trade picks, anything like that. These are all their original picks that they own. So they will all be picking in the 22nd spot of each round, except the 5th and the 7th, of course. So what I did is I did 2 different kinds of draft scenarios. I did one with no trade backs whatsoever, just picking straight our 5 picks. And then I did one that was with a little bit of trading involved. I believe it was only 1 trade, but in my opinion, I think it would be a good one to make. And spoiler alert, we're still going to have 5 picks, just kind of the way the board fell and everything like that. So with this first draft, we, of course, don't have any draft picks. So with their first round pick, the Chargers take the offensive tackle / guard hybrid Caden Proctor, one of the most athletic, if not the most athletic lineman in the entire draft. There's kind of rumors that, a lot of people want him to go to like Chicago or some of these other teams, maybe like even the Lions, that have really creative play callers and things like that. Well, the Chargers now have Mike McDaniel, Mike McDaniel. Oh my God, confusing my names. Mike McDaniel, who is one of the most creative, again, if not the most creative play caller in the NFL. So I think getting him a quote-unquote weapon, as Harbaugh likes to say, O-linemen are offensive weapons. Adding him into a line with, some of that tackle guard experience. So obviously, I think at first glance, you start him out at guard, and then he has that ability to kick outside to tackle. Should there be an injury, obviously, you never hope for anything like that with Slater or Alt. But of course, Slater is coming off a major patellar tendon injury. So, having that depth, I think this would be a fantastic pick for the Chargers, just to have that versatility on the line straight out of the gate. And regardless, even if Slater does stay healthy and Joe Alt stays healthy all year long, you have a fantastic guard as well. So I think this is a can't miss pick for the Chargers. Him and obviously, oh my God, I just realized I switched that on accident. Spoiler alert, we're on the other draft. Whoops. But of course, having him, on that line would be fantastic. And that kind of gets into our second pick of this draft. And at the 55 spot, the Chargers once again address the O-line and go with Manuel Pregnon. Again, just basically the same argument for taking. I would not be upset one bit if the Chargers went double O-line, or in this case, spoiler alert, triple O-line with their first 3 picks. I think it just makes the most sense in the world. That is the one position that is severely lacking, and it was all season long. They did next to nothing to address it in the offseason, besides Tyler Biadasz. But yeah, you address your immediate both guard positions right off the bat. And again, with Caden Proctor, you have that versatility as well, just because of injuries. But again, Manuel Pregnon, I think, is a can't miss player out of Oregon. He would just be an immediate starter. I mean, he's like right now, he's the best guard. Obviously not on the team yet, but if he was on the team, he would be the best guard by far, and it wouldn't even be close. So I think it's, again, yeah, it's not the sexy pick, but you know what? The Chargers don't need sexy. The Chargers won ugly and gritty all year long last year. And the one thing that they did not have in front of them was a stout offensive line. And the one thing they didn't have in front of Herbert, I should say, was a stout offensive line. He's also a fantastic run blocker. So again, Amaron Hampton, this is just, again, helping the offense do more what we saw in the first 3 weeks of the season, where, Herbert's throwing for 300 plus. The running game is giving you, at least 125 on the ground. Just that complementary football that we never really got to see post, Joe Alt going down. Obviously, a couple more injuries. Omarion goes out for about, like 10 weeks or something like that. So, there was just a lot of injuries. Of course, can't blame it all on coaching and whatnot, but address that. You did next to nothing to address it in the offseason. And again, just as more evidence, although this pick is a little bit more of a luxury pick with Caden Proctor and Pregnon, but I don't think it'll happen. There's no way Connor Lew falls to 86. But if he does fall to 86, the Chargers absolutely have to nab that. It is the perfect situation for him to go to. He's obviously, very high IQ, strong awareness, fantastic at diagnosing and picking up the stunts, which someone on the Chargers last season was not much able to do. But I digress. We're not going to name names. Obviously, his sophomore film was incredibly impressive. Showed a little bit of inconsistencies in the run blocking, but again, I think that's things that you can coach. And with Mike McDaniel being there, it's going to be, he's a savant at getting these run schemes going. So I think he could definitely mold him, into maybe not an elite run blocker, but a good enough run blocker, to complement the fantastic pass blocking ability that he possesses. Of course, the biggest thing for Connor Lew and why he fell so far in the draft is that ACL injury. The short-term availability, things like that is a little bit kind of hazy, a little bit up in the air. So I think, again, this is the perfect situation for him to go to, because you do have Tyler Biadasz on that 3-year deal. I think you give, Connor Lew maybe a year to sit behind him. You're able to get out of the Tyler Biadasz deal after next season, for not a huge cap hit or anything like that. So if, Connor Lew kind of moves above schedule and he's ready to go by next year, great. If not, you still have Biadasz there for at least the foreseeable future to allow Lew to develop there in the background and really kind of get his things going. And I get it, for a 3rd-round pick, it's a little bit high for somebody that's going to be sitting for a bit. But in my opinion, the Chargers have that luxury with the first 2 picks and, of course, Proctor and Pregnon. So I think with the way the board fell in this draft, it makes all the sense in the world. Again, I would not be upset one bit. You can clown me, whatever it is. The Chargers need O-line. End of story. And if they went their first 3 picks O-line, you know what? That would tell me that, A, the board fell incredibly in their favor, and B, they had somewhat of a plan moving into the offseason and eventually into the draft, where, maybe this is just where they wanted to address it. They wanted to get incredibly young on the O-line. And, with Pregnon and Proctor, you get those 2 guys pairing them with Alton Slater. I mean, Slater, I think, is the oldest guy on that team at 26? I mean, you have your O-line set for years to come if these picks pan out, and the coaching, plays a massive role into it. So I think they absolutely should, make these moves, or not make these moves because they didn't really trade anything. But if the board falls this way, again, this is 100% something that the Chargers should go after. It's what they need. It's their biggest need, which is the O-line. And of course, getting into some of the later round picks, our 4th-round pick, Jacoby Lane, out of USC. Again, this is, once you've addressed the line, now you can start to kind of look to add to other pieces. This is an insanely deep defensive end and really defensive draft as a whole. But I really like Jacoby Lane, the hometown kid, like I mentioned, out of USC, a great strong catch point receiver who is fantastic in those 50-50 balls. God, I couldn't say contested situations. And, he quote unquote is fantastic above the rim. He goes up there and he gets it. He's, a quarterback's best friend in that regard. He's projected as your outside X. Now I know we have Trey Harris, Keandre Lambert-Smith, things like that. You obviously still have Quentin Johnson and Ladd McConkey. But I just think bringing in another body, and with a 4th-round pick, it's not that big of a reach. Again, with Mike McDaniel, I think he can really get these, scheme him open in regards and really, find a good way to use him. He's really good in those, explosive on, quick feet, things like that. There's a little bit of some athletic concerns behind him. And the biggest thing is he needs to significantly work on his route tree development and, improve a little bit in that press coverage. He does have a little slight concern with drops. So a lot of people kind of just view him as that red zone, threat kind of, situational piece. You don't really bring him in until you're in the red zone. But hey, the Chargers struggled significantly in the red zone last season, scoring points, getting into the end zone, I should say. So I think having somebody like that, and again, we'll see what happens to Trey Harris and things like that and the development with him. But, it's always great to add depth at that position. And I think, yeah, the Chargers, it wouldn't be a total, I wouldn't be totally upset at this. Maybe this is not exactly something that you're, as a Chargers fan hoping for. Maybe you look to address the defense here, but we do address the defense with the next pick. And again, it is a 6th round pick, but I think it's a really solid value here in the 6th round with Ndamukong Tucker out of Western Michigan, who is a fantastic pass rusher, kind of a great explosive first step. Great with his hands, got great coordination with that great lower body coordination with a strong upper body as well. Bends the edge well, closes in quick, and creates turnovers with a great pressure to sack conversion. So, just again, getting this ball to the offense more and more, having that ability on your defense, which the Chargers did a pretty solid job at turning the ball over last year. Actually, I think they did a pretty great job turning the ball over last year. There was a lot of games that were won strictly by the defense. Looking at you, Eagles game. So, just adding to that, getting the ball back for the offense in a hopefully new and improved offense will definitely, get this team right to where it needs to be. The biggest thing is he does struggle against the run, got a little bit of some inconsistent tackling issues, and he's a bit one-dimensional. He doesn't have a great counter move. So again, once you're getting into these later rounds, there's going to be, issues with these guys. He really only had one productive season. He does have a little bit of size and some length concerns. So, again, you're taking the good with the bad when you're in this deep in the draft. You're maybe looking for a little bit of some stories, looking for some guys with some heart, some people, you're just looking to find gems. And if Ndamukong Tucker can be an Odafe Oweh, what Oweh was able to give us, Odafe Oweh, oh my God, what he was able to give us last season, if he's able to give us that, I think that would just be fantastic. And to get something like that in the 6th round, I think it would be a fantastic move. And the Chargers, if they came away with these 5 draft picks, I would be extremely happy. No problems whatsoever. You could ignore the grades on the right. This is just the website that I use that, grades the picks. So don't take really anything with that. Obviously, I know it looks pretty great. But again, the board did fall in a great way for us. And I think, if the Chargers were to have this draft, they would certainly be set up for success next season and for the future, really. All right, getting into the next draft. Now, again, not as exciting, only one trade back in this situation. So looking back, obviously saw it earlier with my misclick there, but looking back earlier, so the biggest thing here was we do stay pat in the 1st round at 22. We did trade back 5 spots here from 55 to 60 with the Bears. And then in that, you also moved up from 204 to 129. So you move up from the 6th round to the 4th while only having to trade back 5 spots originally in the 2nd. So I thought this was a pretty solid trade, in my opinion. I think, again, if you can just, let's say you're going to stick with the, 5 picks, or not stick with them, but let's say you're capped at 5 picks for this draft for whatever reason. I think moving, having 2 fourths instead of a 4th and a 6th is obviously much better. You can get a little bit better talent at that point in the draft. So with this, with the way this draft fell, again, no trade from the 1st round out because Ioane is there. Yoane is there. I always mispronounce him. But he is far and away considered the best interior offensive lineman, best guard in this draft. There's really not much more you can say about him. We've already talked about him a lot. We talked about him in our mock draft video that we did that came out yesterday. So be sure to check that out. Lockdown Defense Sports on YouTube. So yeah, I think if we're able to nab Ioane at Yolan, I always forget his name or how to pronounce it, I should say. If we're able to nab him at 22, it would be an absolute steal. And there's no way, even if you're getting offers to trade back, no way in hell do you do it. Address the guard position, get the best one in the draft, and just be done with it and walk away, wipe your hands, and you're all good. We already talked about this next guy who, again, this is a little bit more where I'm projecting him to go. There's no way in my mind that Connor Lew falls to 86. Maybe that last draft was a little bit, living in a fantasy land, but this is a lot more realistic in my situation, in my head here. I think Connor Lew does go a little bit earlier than the 3rd round. So if you're able to draft him here at 60, again, after moving back 5 spots, picking up that 4th, moving it from the 6th to the 4th in that process, I think this would be a fantastic move here. Again, maybe not as great as the previous situation where you already have your 2 guards in place. So, and, Connor Lew can still sit back and relax. But you do have Yoane. Oh my God. You do have Yoane here. You do still have, Tyler Biadasz, as I mentioned. So drafting Connor Lew, again, I would not be upset at this. He is a fantastic pass blocking center. And again, we have the position of need already addressed somewhat for the foreseeable future. So to have him sit behind and to just watch for a little bit, get healthy, get, his NFL body right. I would love this move, absolutely, especially with the trade back. With our 86th pick in this draft, we do take Dennis Sutton. Oh my God, why am I having a stroke? Who had a fantastic combine, one of the best edge rushing combines, I would argue. The tape isn't quite necessarily there yet with the traits that he showed at the combine, but he does have insanely high upside. And, obviously with the right program in the NFL, and I think having guys like Khalil Mack, Tui Tuipulotu, learning behind things like that can definitely, speed up that development maybe. Similar to like I mentioned with Odafe Owe, or excuse me, not to Odafe Owe. I'm totally off track here. Unlike Odafe Owe, I should say, he is a strong run defender, sets those edges, controls the gaps, which is what Khalil Mack does very well. Now, obviously, Khalil Mack in his prime was a fantastic pass rusher and a fantastic run defender. He's still a fantastic run defender now. Obviously, lost a little bit of that step with the pass rush just as the age gets, as he gets older. And so he's got, a little bit of pass rushing tools. He's got the bull rush, got the occasional spin, but he doesn't really have that consistent bend and hasn't really developed a counter, attack in terms of things like that. Although and like I mentioned earlier, as a good run defender, he is a great early down run defender. But towards, those third downs, things like that, short yardage situations, he does kind of have to pick it up a little bit in that regard. And his ceiling is really just dependent on translating that athleticism that he showed in the combine into consistent pass rush production. So, again, I think learning behind guys like Khalil Mack and Tuli can only be, beneficial to him. And, bringing him in as a third round pick, you don't have as high expectations, still a little high. You do want to hit on at least one of your day two picks. But I think he does, possess a little bit of, more upside there. And I think with the right training staff, I think they could get him right for sure. Oh, excuse me. Moving on to our first fourth round pick now in this draft, we have Deion Burks, another, wide receiver, this time out of Oklahoma, who again had a fantastic combine performance, showed a fantastic strength and explosiveness. He's really best suited for like that quick game spacing based offense, which is what McDaniel provides. So I think it's just a match made in heaven. He excels inside in the slot where he can avoid that press coverage and use his burst to create separation quickly. Again, struggles a little bit more outside. He really wouldn't be used in that regard. And obviously versus press, it does, limit his versatility a lot. But he does project as a really productive yards after catch receiver with some good third down value. But of course, given the size and everything like that, his durability and blocking, of course, are concerns. But again, I think just with the right role, McDaniel will set him up for success. And that's truly all you can ask for, especially out of the fourth round. If you're able to get, a consistent, burner downfield or whatever it may be, if McDaniel's able to consistently scheme him open, it's just another weapon for Herbert. And with a little bit more of an improved line here, more time to get downfield and, ultimately get those big plays going. With the final pick in the draft for the Chargers and their second fourth round pick, just six picks later from Deion Burks, the Chargers do address the defensive line once more in this draft. They're going to go with Chris McClain out of Missouri, who, unlike who I mentioned, oh my God, why am I blanking? First one, let's go back. Unlike Nadame Tucker, Chris McClain is a much better and stronger run defender who's got fantastic tackling ability. And it is backed by that SEC experience. A lot of times you can take a look at a lot of the schools here, a lot of SEC teams in this draft, or from the two drafts really. So, that production is warranted and it's trustworthy coming from that obviously elite conference. He does have a little bit of some limited pass rush ability, so a lot more of a run defender. You're not going to see him too much in the pass rush, but that is, of course, why you drafted Dennis Sutton in, the pick before this, or excuse me, 2 picks before this. So yeah, I think, obviously limited pass rushing ability, but, just more ability to defend the run. That's what the Chargers love to do, is to, force you to be one-dimensional, to play into their strength, which is, of course, that secondary. He's, best suited for an early down interior lineman. Again, getting more into the back end of this draft, you're going to start to find, some inconsistencies with these guys as far as, what they provide. But he does, like I mentioned, being an early down interior lineman. He's great at absorbing double teams, supporting those linebackers behind him. Again, struggles on third down on obvious passing situations, just due to the lack of counters that he has, and inability to create consistent pressure. As a pass rusher, he really struggles against double teams. However, as a run defender, he's great at absorbing those double teams. So really just straight run defense here. He's projected to be a backup nose tackle. Again, in the right scheme, he could be very effective. And you already have, Tier Tart, who is your starting D tackle, as well as, Jamari I always want to say Jamari Sawyer. Jamari Caldwell, who you drafted last year as well, so the second-year player. So again, just adding more rotation to that D-line. I think he can be a really effective piece. I just think with, trading back up into the 4th round to nab somebody of this talent, I think it would be a very successful draft. I probably like the first draft better, of course. Now this one is a little bit more in a fantasy land. There's no way in hell that Connor Lew falls to the 3rd round. This is a little bit more of my realistic expectation. And once again, if this is the way the draft fell for the Chargers, I would be extremely happy. I would have no complaints there whatsoever, addressing the major positions of need very early on. And then, kind of supplying positions that are always good to have more and more depth in. And really, with the secondary, you already have a ton of depth there. Linebacker was definitely an option for some of these picks here as well. I think at 86, there was some options to go linebacker there. I guess it really just depends on how you feel about Junior Colson, and if you like this Chargers staff can get him to where he needs to be, and what he was projected to be, especially Harbaugh, having coached him at Michigan as well. So we'll see what happens with that. I do like Deion Henley, of course. So I think that the biggest needs were met in these 2 drafts, and specifically the more realistic one here. And again, if this is the case for the Chargers coming out of Sunday, because that is when day 3 of the draft is. Saturday. I think I'd be pretty happy here with this one. That is going to do it for me, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, be sure to check out our Patreon that we have launched not too long ago. We're having exclusive content uploaded there all off-season long. Our talks with Bref, things like that. So we have a ton of great content there. Be sure to not miss out on it. Once again, be sure to use your free your 1-week subscription, your 7-day subscription, to kind of see what you're getting into and what you can expect. I promise you, you will not be disappointed. Be sure to also check out the gang and their socials down below. Mike Dub, our Commanders Insider, the real AG, Alex Gibbons, your Chiefs Insider, and of course myself, Young RG, Robert Garcia, your Chargers Insider. And also be sure to support and show some love on the Lockdown Defense social media networks, and of course our YouTube channel. We are on X, formerly known as Twitter. We are on Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, YouTube, and Gmail. Send us what you guys want to see. We are full throttle into the off season, and this is kind of like the pinnacle of the off season, the NFL draft. Of course, we love sharing it with you guys. We love talking ball with you guys, and it is a very, very exciting time, to say the least. So once again, guys, I want to thank you so much for tuning in and watching, and we will see you in the next one. Take care, everybody.